Hello, beautiful enlightened souls. It's Shell from Mommy E. Shell. We're going to be talking about death. Death is only in the third dimensional world. Death is not real. Nobody dies. It is simply a word to create fear in people. Death is not real. We are eternal souls having a human experience. This body that our soul resides in, our vehicle, it expires. When it expires, our soul goes back into our higher council where it resides, where we create our contracts, all of that. We live in a very controlled system, and everything we experience is a challenge. It's created this way to be a challenge. Death is the greatest third dimensional trap there is to keep people from evolving their consciousness, to keep people from expanding their consciousness in a way to become aware that we are eternal souls. Because if we knew that, we would not have the fear that we have. Death is not real. The whole reason this whole experience is going on in the 3D with the vid and the Maxine is for fear. And these people who are transcending, they are transcending because what our responsibility is right now in this great awakening is to create, to heal so deeply that we create new timelines for these souls to come back into. The people who are transcending, let me say this again, in this divine design that we are experiencing, they are transcending so that they can come back into new high frequency timelines without the karma, without the generational curses, without all of that. That is our responsibility. That is us that are evolving our souls, that are waking up inside all of this and choosing a new high frequency timeline, choosing to heal. Our responsibility is to create these new timelines so that the people before us, our ancestors, can transcend and come back in through us, because we are their portals into these new timelines, into these evolved timelines, into this evolved life. This is our responsibility. Death is not real. And I'm probably going to make this a series because I'm sure you guys are going to have questions, but this is the basis, and it's 12:22 right now. I'm saying this. I love you guys. But this is the greatest information you can hang on to. This information will drastically improve your life, because without this fear of death, we are unstoppable. Our power is massive, and we... Hello, beautiful enlightened souls. It's Shell from Mommy Shell with part 2 of Death is Not Real. If we knew and we owned and we claimed the fact that our loved ones do not die and disappear, what actually happens, and what the system does not want you to know, which is why they created death and removed the truth from us, which is transcendence. We transcend. Whenever our body, our avatar, our vehicle expires, our soul transcends back into our higher council, where we reside with all of our soul family. So what the system did was they created this whole ritual, a third dimensional ritual called death. They made it to where you mourn. Everyone has to be sad. You're required to be sad during this time, because if not, then there's something wrong with you. You either put this empty vessel into the ground and you stand around and you mourn this person's life. Actually, you mourn their death. What transcendence is, it's a celebration of life. What transcendence is the greatest part of our soul human journey. Whenever we transcend, our soul transcends, that should be a celebration. Because in this time of celebrating, we get to honor them for their experiences. We get to honor them for their legacy, the work that they've done. But what the system did, they created death to be such a sad, sad, sad time. And they used this word, and they created this word around a moment. Anything that the system does and glorifies, we need to do the opposite. And that is so extremely important with this one topic. Especially right now, especially why all of us, every single person you know has experienced someone who has transcended due to COVID. This is all false, because I'm not even going to go into that, but that's not Anyway, that's not what we're going to do here. The reason why this is happening is because without this death, then fear would not be able to control all of you into taking the next step, which is part of the plan, which is the vaccine. Every single thing is designed to devolve the consciousness, to keep people in the 3D matrix. The truth is, whenever a soul transcends, we here are closer to them than we were when they were physically here. Why? Because a soul is eternal. Their spirit, their energy lives on completely. But more importantly, if we know how to dial their soul number, meaning if we know how to go inside and speak to our answers, if we know how to speak to our higher counsel, we can communicate with them at any time we want to. They can be with us all the time. Unlike whenever their soul is attached to a physical vessel, they cannot be with us all the time. This truth would shatter the illusion of death. And this is why I'm making this series. Hello, beautiful enlightened souls. It's Shell from Mama Shell with part 3 of how death is not real. In this one, I want to talk about the attachments that they create, that the program creates around death. One being a funeral and a gravesite, a cemetery, whatever. Here's the deal. First of all, that's physical. Physical only remains in the third dimensional world. Higher dimensional, higher frequency existing, we do not attach to physical things. It's not part, that's all materialistic, and higher frequencies, that is not how we operate. We know we are eternal souls. We know frequency is everything. We know vibration and energy is everything. So we do not need to physically have things, own things, or go to things to be able to reach our level of connection with the spirit world. So, for instance, whenever you have a funeral, it's all about mourning a life, mourning a death, what have you. Okay, so the equal opposites, everything has the equal opposite. So the equal opposite high frequency of the low frequency of mourning death would be celebrating life. But this is not taught to us, because if we celebrated the life of someone, we would not drop down into a low frequency. We would stay in a high frequency, and we would talk about all the beautiful things that we loved about this person and their legacy. Another thing on legacy, if we celebrated life more than we mourned death, all of us would have a much bigger passion for creating a very, very incredible legacy, a legacy that we would understand is a story. It's our story that the generations that follow us will talk about us, what that they will share, how they will know our story is based on our legacy. That is a forgotten thing. That is a forgotten thing because the system created death. It created being attached to the physical being the body. So what you're doing whenever you're spending all this money and time and energy going into a funeral is you are obsessing and attaching to the physical part, which is that vessel. There is no talk about soul. There is no talk about their spirit. So what you do is essentially you're creating a place to mourn. Whenever you put them in a cemetery and you create an altar, it is a place you go to where you mourn. Okay, it's very rare that people celebrate life when they do this. The same thing with ashes. Whenever we have ashes, we literally have the ashes of the vessel, the empty vessel that is not the soul. This is done to keep us disconnected from the soul, the true transcendence, which is soul. Another thing is an altar is in our mind, is in our spirit. Everything can be an altar as long as our consciousness is connected to that. So please do not get attached to that gravesite. Do not get attached to that funeral or those. Hello, beautiful enlightened souls. It's Shell from Mama Shell with the fourth and final part of Death is Not Real. This one is going to upset people. Let me tell you why. Because whenever we are in our mourning phase, whenever we are so sad and we are so upset that we will never get to see this person physically in our life, we are being selfish. That is a selfish act that is saying, I am sad for myself because I do not get to spend physical time with this person. The truth of it is, and that's all a program. This is not because you're doing something wrong. This is because we have been programmed to feel this way. The truth of it is, and I said this in another part, is whenever a soul transcends out of a vessel, out of a physical body, we are closer to them than we were whenever they were physically here, and that is because we can call their soul anytime, we can dial them in anytime, and they can actually come here and be with us. Another thing is reincarnation. This is the final part of the death. The death lie. The death is not real. The death programming, the death system, the death being connected to it in the third dimensional is because if it was called transcendence, it would be way more believable that we reincarnate back into this human experience over and over and over until we learn all the lessons that we need to learn, and we get to finally completely ascend from this human experience. We are not here to be humans and attached to this. We are here to learn lessons and to grow our soul. Our soul chooses this life. Our soul chooses the human experience. Our soul chooses to come down from our higher council, where we reside in higher frequencies, where our soul has been around for a very long time, and chooses to come back down into a lower density so that we can learn all of these challenging experiences, so that we can grow our soul and we can have even more compassion, because where we are in our higher frequencies, we don't experience challenges, we don't experience competition or low frequency feelings, none of that. So we choose this, and we do forget, and we know that, but it is our responsibility whenever we are an evolved soul to wake up and take the responsibility to continue to evolve our souls. So this is the thing. Whenever you find yourself mourning someone because you don't physically get to talk to them and see them, remember, you should be very proud and you should be celebrating their highest level of being a human, which is transcendence, which is getting to go back into their soul, family, into their council, and they get to reincarnate back into this beautiful life that is your responsibility to build. That's another reason why we deflect this, because it's our responsibility to create that